Hi guys, Sydney Brown here. Welcome back to chapter 3. We are going to be talking about crafting a compelling narrative. Now, if you're following me, please be sure to like this video, subscribe, and then comment below that you subscribed, and I will do my best to interact with everyone who makes comments. Be nice. See you soon. All right, so the first section of chapter 3, we're going to talk about crafting a compelling narrative and establishing a narrative structure. Now, what we've already done is you've gone back, you've figured out your theme and your focus, and now it's time to craft that narrative structure. So first things first, try to visualize it like this. Establishing a narrative structure is kind of like building a house. You need a strong foundation, a solid framework, and a clear sense of purpose. You need to know what it's for. That's what gives your memoir shape, direction, and most importantly, the meaning. So how do you establish a narrative structure? That is actually the question, literally. So here's a few tips to get you started. Number 1, start with a clear goal. What is the story that you want to tell or the central message that you want to convey to your readers? Having a clear goal in mind will help you establish a structure that supports your narrative and guides your readers. Number 2, map out the key moments. What are the key moments or the turning points in your story or in your life? What are the events that shaped you into the person that you are today? Mapping out those moments will help you create a very clear narrative arc and establish a structure that supports your story. Number 3, choose a structure that works for you. There's many different narrative structures that you could choose, including chronological, thematic, and hybrid structures. Choose the one that works best for your story and for you personally. Number 4, use a hook to draw readers into your story. Your memoir should always start with a hook that actually draws them in, like a fish hook. Sets the stage for your entire story. It could be as simple as, an interesting anecdote, a powerful quote, or some sort of a striking visual image that captures the essence of your story. But if you don't immediately start with something that's going to hook them and make them want to read it, they won't get past page 1. 5, consider the pacing. Now, pacing is really important in memoir writing or any writing at all, to be honest. You want to create a structure that keeps your readers fully engaged, interested, and wanting to keep turning the pages. You want to make it fast-paced enough that it's exciting at times and they're right there with you on the edge of their seat, but then give them slower paces as well so that they can be more reflective and introspective. It's important to allow your reader the time to experience all the emotions through that. So make sure that you consider the pacing as you go through this. Number 6, use transitions to guide your reader. Now, transitions are really important in establishing the narrative structure. They help your reader from, one moment to the next, from one scene to the other, from one time frame to the next. Use transitions like scene breaks, chapter breaks, and summary statements to keep your reader engaged and on track. Now, remember, establishing a narrative structure does take some time and effort. It may require some experimentation, some trial and error, and maybe some swearing. Don't worry though, you've got this. You can do this. Your memoir is waiting to be written, and your narrative structure is the framework that will get it to life. So get out there, have some fun, and let your creativity soar. All right, moving on to section 2, showing versus telling. So are you ready to learn about the difference between showing versus telling in memoir writing? If so, let's dive in. Now, first things first, showing versus telling is kind of like the difference between watching a movie and reading a book report. The showing allows your reader to experience the story alongside you, to feel the things that they feel with you, and feel that empathy and the emotion that you may have felt. When you tell, on the other hand, that can feel distant or detached. It's more like, just reading off a laundry list of events rather than a true story. It doesn't seem as real to them. So the big question is, how do you write in a showing versus telling format? Let's get started into that. Number one, use sensory details. So when you're showing instead of telling as you write, it's really important that you use sensory details to help your readers experience the scene that you're writing. Use descriptive language to paint a picture of the setting. The characters, the emotions, all of that, you want your reader to feel and to be immersed in this experience with you. So use all five senses as you create a vivid and immersive experience. Now, one word of warning, do not overdo the description of the rooms. Now, when you do that, sometimes your reader is going to actually tune out because they really don't care about every detail of the room. That's the one time that I will caution you not to get overly sensory, overly descriptive. But when it comes to the emotions, I don't know that there is such a thing as too much emotion or too much description in that. So sensory details, number one. Number two, and this is a close runner with number one, honestly, use dialogue. I am a firm believer that dialogue will carry the story that you have to share the furthest. Honestly, it is the one thing that can captivate your reader, can pull them in, and help them go on that same journey with you. It's a powerful tool, and it allows your characters to actually come alive on the page. The readers are able to connect with your characters on a deeper level. And the dialogue that you use, if you use it correctly, will actually reveal the character. It'll show their depth. It will advance the plot, and it will convey the emotions that you really want your readers to experience. Now this is almost funny, and I almost didn't put this in here, but number three is show, don't tell. And I know that the chapter in the section is show, don't tell, but sometimes I think that we think that people know what we mean when we say that, but I just want to make sure and give that extra, let's just go into the weeds with this. So it may seem obvious to some, and if it does, then I apologize. You can just grab a drink of your soda or something while I finish this. But it's really important to remember that showing is always more powerful than telling. So instead of telling someone, OMG, I was so mad, I was fuming mad, I was so incredibly mad. It doesn't matter how many O's you put after the word so, it's not really going to help your reader feel more enraged with you. What you need to do in a case like that is you need to put it in words that the reader reads, but show them through your body, the actions that you take, your body language, your dialogue. Show them through the vivid descriptions and the sensory. So you can say something to the effect of, I slammed the refrigerator door shut and glared, I swirled and glared. There's so many things that you can say that let your reader envision that scene as it happened, And that is showing versus telling. Make sure you let them know how your body moved. If something, like if in a funny story, let's say, you slid on the ice, you don't want to say, oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed, it was such a funny thing, we laughed until we cried. But that, someone might smile if they read that. But if you describe how you took each step carefully and carefully, and you just knew that the wrong step would, and then you did it, and your arms went up in the air, and your hat fell off, a shoe fell off, your groceries went everywhere. If you really describe the experience, then your reader is going to be sitting there laughing their butts off with you. So show, don't tell. So number 4 is use action. Now this is going to sound very similar to what we just talked about, but I want to go a little bit deeper in that, because action is a powerful way to show the readers what's happening in the story. You can use the action to convey the emotions, advance the plot, reveal character. Let's talk about that reveal character part. Instead of telling your readers how you felt, show them through your actions and reactions as the events unfold around you. So let's just talk real quick about developing character. What you could do is, I think we just talked about, falling on the ice. Maybe the first time you met Carol, your best friend for the rest of your life from that day, she ran over to you and helped you pick up all your groceries and made sure you got off the ice patch. When you show someone's character in the description, while they're still laughing that you're on your butt on the ice, they're realizing, hey, Carol's a pretty cool chick, that she came over and helped you. That's a little glimmer into her character. So you can use action to not say Carol was a nice lady, she did this, she was always helping people. Don't tell people things like that. Tell them through the actions and let them get to know Carol like you did. Number 5, again, these kind of all play together when you're writing your memoir, but be specific. The key when it comes to showing versus telling is to use specific details and examples that bring your story to life and help you help your readers connect with your experiences. Like we talked about, you slip on the ice, you meet Carol and she helps you. If you just said, that's the day I met Carol on the day that I slipped and fell on the ice, your reader's going to be like, okay, they're not going to care about any of it because you weren't specific enough. So be very specific, and don't be afraid. I call it going into the weeds or going deep. Don't be afraid to go deep when there's something emotional in your life that will draw more emotion and more attachment of your reader engagement. Don't be afraid to go deep on it. Number 6, use body language. Now, you're writing, so your body language as a writer doesn't mean anything to your reader. Your character, though, really needs to be using body language. It is a powerful way to show your readers what's happening in the story. It can convey emotion, character, and create that tension that sometimes needs to happen. Kind of visualize, if I don't want to go too dark, but let's say there's abuse or something in one of your stories, and maybe someone's hands are super tense, or maybe you're massaging your arm because the muscle still hurts from the bruises. Whatever it is, draw those visuals for your reader and let them know what happened by feeling it with you. So use your body language, eye contact, I glared at them. I didn't realize I was glaring. Maybe they say, why are you giving me that dirty look? And you're in your story, you could be saying, I didn't even realize I was, or something to that effect. Uh, your eye contact with your other characters and your body language is a huge way of showing versus telling. Number 7, use metaphors and similes. Now, metaphors and similes are powerful tools for showing in writing. They allow you to create comparisons that bring your story to life and help your readers, connect to the experiences on a deeper level. Now, if you ever get confused between metaphors and similes, a lot of us do. It's not a big deal. You can always just search it on the internet and do a quick, refresher to make sure. But the bottom line is, it doesn't matter if you're using a metaphor or a simile. It just matters that you're using them. Now, just so you know, metaphors tend to use the words like are or is. So she's a demon. Now, obviously, you're not saying that she's actually a demon. You're just saying she's a demon. Now, your reader is instantly going to be able to think, oh my gosh, she's one of those people, like just a pain in the butt or whatever. They make whatever conclusions they associate a demon with. So if it's a stereotype or something that you want them to draw, then making that one simple little word will just hugely amplify that reader's ability to instantly get in there with you. Now, a simile, the difference between that would be like when you use words like as or like. So sweet as sugar. You're not actually sweet as sugar, at least I don't think, but that's what it is. It's metaphors and similes. It doesn't matter as long as you use them. If you know which one you're using, it will get easier over time. But just make sure that you use these descriptives because it will cut your word count, and your reader wants to get to the good stuff with you. And if you drag them through long descriptions, they're less likely to stay reading. So you want to keep them flipping the page. And if you are giving them a lot of impact with fewer words, they're really going to hang in there with you. Number 8. So descriptive words. Now, we've talked about this in different ways, but I really want to go into more the descriptive verbs specifically. Now, that's a really powerful tool because a lot of the times when you're writing, like he said, she said, he said, she said, as you're going through dialogue, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so monotonous. Or he walked, she talked. When you do that, you're going to repeat the same words over again, and your reader will sometimes, not always, will get bored with what you're writing. Even if the content of the story is otherwise really good, they start skipping words because they already know that, and they don't have that interest in reading word for word. So try instead by using descriptive verbs. And, instead of walked, of course, depending on your scene, maybe you glided or maybe you dashed, take those descriptive verbs and take them a little bit further. When you do this, you will keep your reader engaged in what the real story is. At the same time, you're giving even more clarity to the scene and being descriptive. So descriptive verbs, definite win. Number 9. Now, another really important way to show versus tell is using internal monologue. Now, the big difference here is obviously you're not in other people's heads and you don't hear what they're thinking all the time. But when you're reading a book from a first person point of view, like you would in a memoir, it's something that you really can give the reader is that ability to be in your head. So use that internal monologue because it's a really powerful way to show the readers what's happening with your thoughts, with your emotions, and they're able to quickly, drill in and get right there with you. Using that is a way to, reveal your thoughts, your fears, your desires, and to help the reader, with the experience on a just a much deeper level. Now, what you could do is, and don't overdo, like, she stared in or I stared in a mirror and examined every freckle, every wrinkle, and utterly hated everything about my face, and I knew that I had to make a change. If you said something like that, whoever's reading that would probably be like, man, she is totally down on herself back then, and then you can take them through that journey from where you were to where you are today. So if you have an overcomer story, really honing in on your internal dialogues is something that will show your reader how much you've changed. And finally, guys, number 10, edit ruthlessly. Now, I get this, and please understand I get it, because I've been in the same boat. You fall in love with every word you say, and every experience means something to you. But there is a time when you have to disengage from being involved in it and reflecting and reliving those moments, and you have to come back and become the editor. So put on your editor hat and edit ruthlessly. If that bit of the story, or if that word or that sentence or that paragraph isn't actually moving your story forward and making, if it adds any confusion, if it slows down your pace, if it does something you don't want it to do, it doesn't need to be there. So, just it's going to hurt at first, but take the hit and cut it out. Now, when I say cut it out, literally cut it, paste it over in a different document for now. Don't delete anything that you write, because it may actually make sense to be somewhere else, or whatever. Always cut and paste, but get it out of your draft until you know for sure, is it better this way, or is it better that way? And when you edit ruthlessly, you are not being a critical person. You are being, you have to put yourself in your reader's shoes. Is every word going to help them in that story? If it doesn't help them, it's got to go. So edit ruthlessly. Guys, just remember, showing versus telling is all about bringing your story to life, allowing your readers to experience it firsthand with you. And it's all about creating a vivid and an immersive experience that leaves a lasting impact, because that's the whole reason you're doing this, right? You want to leave an impact. So get out there, have some fun, and let your creativity soar. All right, now we're moving into section 3, utilizing the hero's journey. Now, are you ready to learn about the hero's journey and how to use it to create a powerful narrative for your memoir? If so, let's get on that adventure. So, first things first, the hero's journey is a classic storytelling structure that has been used for centuries to create powerful narratives. It's a blueprint for stories like Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and Star Wars. So you'll recognize it as we go through these, and if you follow it, it's a proven method that will help you. It is called the hero's journey, and it can create a powerful narrative for your memoir. So, what's the hero's journey, and how do you use it to create your narrative? Here's a few tips to get you started. All right, step 1, the call to adventure. Now, in the hero's journey, it starts with a call into an adventure or a moment that sets the story in motion. In your memoir, this could be, a moment of crisis, a personal challenge, or a turning point in your life, something that starts your story. Number 2, refusal of the call. Now, next in the hero's journey, the hero often hesitates before embarking on the journey, questioning their abilities to succeed. Now, in your memoir, though, this could be a moment of self-doubt, uncertainty, or where you question your ability to overcome the challenges that are ahead of you. Number 3, meeting the mentor. Now, every hero needs a mentor, someone who can help them, guide them to where they're supposed to be, provide them with the direction, the tools that they need to succeed. They need that mentor. So in your memoir, to follow the hero's journey, you could be, your mentor could be a person who inspires you, a teacher who helps you grow, or a mentor who just guides you along the way of whatever your own story is. Number 4, crossing the threshold. This is the moment when the hero leaves their ordinary world and enters the unknown. In your memoir, though, this could be a moment where you step out of your comfort zone, where you decide to take a risk, or you step out of the regular routine. It's where you start moving forward. Number 5, trials and tribulations. Now, every hero faces challenges along their journey, right? So they have obstacles that they have to overcome in order to succeed. But in your memoir, these challenges could be your personal struggles, the external obstacles that get in your way, or moments of crisis. Number 6, the innermost cave. Now, this is the moment when the hero faces their greatest challenge, their darkest moments, the biggest fear that they have, the tallest obstacle, and they're facing it. It's the toughest point of the journey. In your memoir, this could be a moment of self-discovery, a personal revelation, or something that caused a profound change in your life. Number 7, the resurrection. Now, this is the moment when the hero rises from the ashes, stronger and more determined than ever before. But in your memoir, this is a moment where you could have, personal growth or a personal triumph. It's going to be that moment where you realize you've overcome the biggest obstacle in your life and you see the light at the end of the tunnel. Number 8, the return home. Now, the return home is when the hero finally returns home, transformed by their journey, and he's ready to start sharing the story, and he's the local hero. In your memoir, this could be a moment of reflection, moments of gratitude, or the same thing, where you're sharing your story with others. Number 9, identify your hero's journey. Now, the hero's journey is not a one-size-fits-all structure. It's impossible to just use that one thing and stick your life into that template. So make sure you don't try to take your life into something else, because this is about fitting a formula or a journey that is commonly used, and readers will expect it and follow it with a little more ease and comfort. So it's good to use it, but don't try to fit your life into it if it doesn't actually fit there. You can skip steps, do whatever you need to do. What's really important is that you use those steps that can fit into your life into your own journal. So the other thing, number 10, use archetypes. Now, archetypes are they're intended to be used to create relatable characters. Basically, it's a universal symbol like, a mentor, the shadow, the trickster, things like that. And again, if you don't have a trickster in your life, in your story, then don't invent it unless you mean for this to be fiction. If it's meant to be a memoir, then use what fits in to your story to your benefit to help the reader along the journey with you. But don't create things that aren't already there. Now, if you want to do a fiction that is maybe loosely based off of your memoirs, then you can do that as well. But that would be more fictionalized. It's fiction. We'll talk about that in other courses. If you're interested, make sure you follow me, subscribe and things. We will definitely cover those in fiction lessons. But for memoirs, make sure that what you're writing is the truth. It's your story. Number 11, show, don't tell. Now, you may actually get tired of me saying this, but it applies in multiple places. So I'm going to keep saying it because it is really the key lesson that you need to take away from everything as you write your memoir. Show, don't tell. It's just a very powerful method, and you use the sensory details, dialogue, and descriptive language to show your reader the key moments of the hero's journey. Number 12, embrace vulnerability. Now, the hero's journey is not always easy, and it often requires a level of vulnerability and honesty that can be uncomfortable. But it's important, and it's those moments that create the most powerful and relatable narratives. So don't be afraid to share your struggles, your fears, and your failures along the way. Now, you're going to find that you may be one of two people. You may find it extremely easy to just pour it out and be open and authentic from the start, but a lot of people aren't. So if you're that person who has a hard time being that open and that honest, I really encourage you to spend some time pre-drafting and doing things where you're just really working through those things on your own. And as you work through it, as you kind of reflect on that part of your life or that lesson learned or that experience or abuse, whatever it was, when you have your memoir, you need to already be beyond the healing part of that, or at least in the process to where you're not spewing poison onto your reader. So I kind of equate it to, when you have personal abuse, you may have scars still and you remember still what happened, but they're not open wounds. And so you want to be able to talk about those things. And sometimes you can't immediately talk about them openly like you're going to need to in a great memoir. Just practice, write it out to yourself, and then you decide what you're willing to share and not share. It's your story. You decide. But I do encourage you, the more authentic you can be, the more your reader is going to engage and really appreciate your authenticity. And finally, number 13, reflect. Reflect on your journey. Take the time to reflect on the hero's journey and the lessons that you learned along the way. What insights did you gain from the experience that you had? What did you learn about yourself, about others, about the world? How did that impact you? What did it change in you? Use these reflections to create a powerful and meaningful ending to your memoir. It's the ending as well as the journey that the people who are reading your story want to know. They want to know did they find healing? Did they solve the problem? Did they reach the destination, or are they still shooting for it, or did they give up? They want to know that. And so find your ending and make sure that you use your self-reflection and the things that are real, that become part of the final step of your hero's journey. Because the hero's journey is a powerful tool for creating the narrative, because it will resonate with the reader. It inspires them to take action, but it's truly going to be your authenticity and your honesty that inspires them, that makes them want to go out and be like you. Or sometimes, the point of your memoir maybe, don't do what I did, do what I say, because of this, and you may inspire them to do the opposite of what you did, and you save them from a life of pain, or a life of bad choices and different things like that. So really know what your message is and use that hero's journey where you can. It is not a one size fits all. Use it where you can, and share your transformation, share your overcomer stories. And when it hurts too much to share it, like I said, do some more writing, work through it on your own, maybe talk to someone. There's nothing wrong with that. Get through those things so then you can share with others your overcomer stories. Now, I know that this may seem like a downer. It's not always a downer, I promise you that. Sometimes memoirs are just hilarious. It really just depends on what you would decide to share. But I challenge you, get out there, have some fun, and let the creativity soar. All right, now we're into section 4, talking about the top 10 storytelling techniques for memoirs. So if you're ready, we're just gonna go right into it. Now, number 1, you guessed it, show don't tell. As we've discussed earlier, showing versus telling is a powerful tool for creating an immersive experience for your readers. It helps with the details, the dialogue, descriptive language. You use all these to show your readers the key moments of your story. Number 2, use dialogue. Now, we've talked about this. Dialogue is super important, and it's a powerful tool for bringing your characters to life, to making them real to your reader, adding depth to your story. You would use it to reveal deeper character, to advance the plot line and convey emotions. Now, that's a big one. Number 3, use descriptive language. Now, descriptive language is another powerful tool for creating that immersive experience for your readers. Use it to paint vivid pictures of the settings. Remember, not too vivid. Let the reader use some of their own imagination. But describe the characters and the emotions. Remember, the emotions more than anything is where you really can pretty much never go too deep. Number 4, use flashbacks. Now, I don't think we've talked about this yet, but flashbacks can be a really powerful way to reveal backstory, add depth to your story, and sometimes, just to fill in where you may have left a gap and it doesn't make sense to go edit it back in. Using a flashback can help with a lot of things like that. Don't use them too often, though, because then you may confuse your reader because you're going back and forth. But it does help at times. Don't hesitate to use flashbacks. Number 5, use metaphor and simile. Now, we've talked about this. It's very important that you help your reader use their own imagination. You don't need to spell out every detail to them, but give them a trigger for them to visualize, because their visual and their emotions will engage better and faster and deeper if you give them the opportunity to make some of their own visuals. Number 6, use suspense. Suspense is a really powerful way to keep your readers engaged and interested. You use it to create tension, build anticipation, and keep your readers kind of on the edge of their seats. Well, what happened next? Well, what happened? You don't want to necessarily leave a cliffhanger where they can't wrap up the story at the end, but you do. I think almost all readers really want to be kept guessing a little bit, and then they can go on that journey with you, and they're wondering, they're curious, they're in suspense. Number 7, use humor. Humor is a great tool. It's really powerful for breaking up tense moments, adding levity to your story. Sometimes if there is, I don't, some sort of an abuse or something like that, you can get really dark and low, and your reader and you could really benefit with finding a moment, that somehow lightens the air a little bit. And that humor is a really important tool. If it doesn't come naturally to you, I challenge you to work on that a little bit, because humor really can be a great way of working your way through. It's not escaping necessarily. You don't want to only laugh about things, but if you're being authentic and honest, then sometimes you do need to just find a way to laugh. Uh, Number 8, use repetition. Now, you probably see me doing this here, and the reason I do this is because it's very important that you repeat some of the vital things, because most of our minds, we don't remember everything at the first time that it passes through us. So sometimes people need to hear it 3 times, 5 times, 8 times. I've heard as many as 11 or 13 times. I'm not going to do that to you, don't worry. But use repetition in your story on those vital moments, those vital points that you're trying to make, because you need to emphasize certain moments or experiences that you really want to make sure that your reader is with you on. Now, number 9, use sensory details. And we've talked about this. It's like anything: the sight, the smell, the taste, the touch, anything that you can describe of those within reason. Like I said, remember, we want the reader to take what you feed them and then to finish it on their own. So make sure you're giving some sensory details, though. If you're world building, like in a sci-fi or something like that, I know that's not a memoir, but if you're doing something like that, then you may need to get more detailed into, how many colors are in the sky. And maybe in your own memoir, maybe you have this one sunset that changed your life. And maybe in that one sunset that changed your life, maybe you do want to describe all of the colors and describe how they were arranged, because if it changed your life, that sunset is worth talking about. But any other sunset, just talk about the emotion that it evoked and let that be the description. So you want to use those sensory details, but not go overboard with it. And then number 10, use symbolism. Now, symbolism is a powerful tool for creating meaning and depth, like most of these methods, but you want to use it to represent ideas, emotions, themes, and to connect with your reader on a deeper level. So I know that I threw that out at you pretty quickly. There is a lot to digest. I encourage you to bookmark this, or subscribe, and come back and refer back to it. There is a lot, and I know that there is, but it's all very important stuff that will help you build the foundation of your memoir. So with that, I challenge you, get out there, have fun, and let your creativity soar.